I have no idea for an intro. Let's just skip in right into the video part. Good morning, fellas. I hope you're doing very well today. My name is Yanexi Arts, and welcome to the next tutorial. Today I am pretty tired since I came back from school recently, but that's not the point of today's video. Today we're going to learn how to draw shadows. This isn't going to be a full tutorial on shading because there's just too much things to explain in one video about shading, so I'm not going to get into the details. But today I'm going to teach you how to shade simple shapes like cubes and circles. So I am going to show you how you can measure the angle and the direction of your shadow, and I can also show you how you can make it look as if it was drawn professionally. Also, thank you guys so much for the support on my videos. I know I keep saying that in every video, but it just means a lot to me. And also, I'm sorry if you hear some background noise, but there's just a bit too much going on in my house right now. Alright, let's get into the video. Okay, so this is the program OpenCanvas 7. You can get it on Steam. And now, let's get, for example, into how do you shade a cube like this. Let's just draw a simple cube. Alright, so we have a cube. And now, how do you, first of all, draw the direction of your shadow? How is it going? Well, this is done by drawing lines, your reference lines, from the endpoints on the bottom, on the ground level. Let's say that our light source is somewhere on the left, so the shadow would go to the right, like this, in this direction. Something like that. Okay, so now we have determined where is the direction of our shadow. You can see that it will go like this, and I drew it this way so that you can see very well how this works. And now, let's talk about the angle level as your cube, then the angle would be extremely small. Like it would go, the shadow would be like, let's say something like that. And you can do this, but this takes too much time, and honestly, the best way to do that is to make it, for example, a bit smaller angle. So I'm going to do that so that you can see how it works. So, the angle, you can determine it by drawing lines from these points and basically connecting them with your direction lines. And now we have a point on which those two meet. And I am going to mark that so that I can know where our final shadow is going to be. Okay, so we have our first point. So let's just go on to the second and the third one. Now, you need to remember that every single line that you draw needs to be at the same level and in the same direction, so that your shadow doesn't end up looking something like, let's say, something like that, because it is just very unorganized. So make sure that when you draw the angle, the direction and everything, that your reference lines are in the same direction and in the same angle. So let's just skip into the part where I have everything. Okay, so we have all of our points that basically drawn, and now we can connect them by drawing lines like this. Not like that. Oh, there we go. Like this. Like this. And like this. And now there we go. Look at that. We have a shadow of our cube. I'm going to draw a few more examples of that so that we can understand it a bit better. But now let's just shade it in a bit. Okay, and since I have my shadow shaded, let's also shade those two sides. And since our light source is, let's say, somewhere right there, then those two walls I'm going to be shaded because these don't receive any light. Okay, so I'm going to make this one the darkest because this is where our shadow is the largest. And this is also the side where it is the most blocked. And this side I'm also going to shade, but a slightly lighter gray. Okay, so since those two are shaded, now you can also shade outwards so that your bright side, this one, stands out. If you do something casually, like for example, if you draw on a sketchbook, let's say, this is a very good tip to make your bright side stand out the most. And also it can make your drawing look a bit more dynamic, you know? So let's just do that. And it will make our cube look a bit more, let's say, in a bit more interesting environment. Okay, so we have this. This is shaded, and this is shaded. So now our cube is basically finished. Now let's do this one more time so that you really understand it. Okay, so again, this time I'm going to make it look like as if the shadow is going in the other direction. So let's just draw a cube. Alright, so we have a cube, and now, since we want our shadow to go this way, right there, we need to determine where our third point is so that we can connect it properly. And for that, I'm going to draw in the inside of this cube so that we can see where we should draw the reference line. Okay, so we have, let's say, transparent cube for now. And now let's say that our direction is somewhere right there. So let's just mark those points where we need to see the direction, let's say. Okay, and now let's just draw where we want our shadow to go. And again, make sure your lines are in the same angle and in the same direction. And now, since we have the direction of the shadow, we need to determine the angle. So let's make it a little bit larger this time. So let's, for example, something right like that. Okay, and those two meet. So I'm going to mark this. And let's just copy that same angle and the same length to the other ones. Okay, so we have those points. And let's connect them so that we can see the shadow properly. Alright, so we have everything connected, and now, since this won't be a transparent cube, the only, let's say, part of the shadow that will be visible is this one. I know I said we need, like, connected everything, but this is important to make your shadow look realistic. If you, for example, draw a cube and your shadow looks like it wasn't drawn without any point of reference, it's not going to look good. So, I did that so that we can actually see how we determined the shadow. And now since the shadow is going backwards, this side is going to be lit. So let's shade this side of the cube right here, the shadow. Alright, so we have this shaded, and like I said, since this is going to be lit, I am going to shade only this side of the cube. And also I'm not going to shade it fully, so that we really see that the light source is somewhere above. And also I'm going to shade this side, but just a tiny bit. Oh, like this. And now since we have those two shaded, let's just do the same thing, but a little bit lighter that we did before, so that we can show the sides that are not lit at all. Alright, so this is finished. And now, since we know how to draw cubes and shape them, let's go on to circles. Now, first of all, let's draw a circle. I'm going to draw a square so that we can see where the circle is and how it curves. Okay, so we have a circle. And now, first of all, how do you determine where the direction is going? This is simple. You just make the middle point right here your direction. Let's say this is going into our, let's say, direction. And now we have determined where the shadow is going to go. And since this is a circle, the shadow is going to curve. But how do we know where does it curve, and how do we know the angle? let me show you. We have the direction. That's good. And now, since we have this line right there that is going up and down, this is going to be the same point at the same height and at the same, let's say, width of the circle than this one. As this one, I'm sorry. And now, since this is basically at the same level as this one, we can draw the first angle. Let's just make it a bit more visible, like so. And now we have the height of our circle. So this is the highest point. It won't go any higher than that. And now since we have this, we know that those points are going to go a bit lower. But how do we determine how low they go? You can do this by just simply, let's say, you want to capture this point. And now, how do we determine the angle? Let's draw a line to the bottom, like so. And also let's mark this point, because this point is going to be at the same level as this one, but just inverted. And from this line, we're going to draw the direction, like so. And from those points here, I am going to draw the angle, like so, and like so. And now look at that. The circle curves, and we have the first point on which it curves really. So now, let's do this to this one, for example. A straight line, mark those points here, extrude it a bit, and now the direction, and now the angle. Okay, so we have the first idea of our circle, like so. And for example, let's mark this point here, because this is the width of our circle and this is going to be the widest point. So let's determine the direction here and the angle here. All right, so we have this point, these points, and let's just connect them in a circly matter. Oh, like so. I think I'm going to correct this because this is just a bit too close. Oh yeah, like so. This went off a bit, I'm sorry for that. Okay, so we have the first side of the circle, let's say the shadow, figured out, and let's just do the same thing for this side. Alright, so we have our shadow just basically done. And now since we know where this is going and how this is going, let's just shade it in like a normal shadow. Okay, so this is done. And now since we have everything and our circle doesn't look like it's standing out really, let's fix that by doing the same thing as we did on the cubes. Okay, so now the circle really looks like a circle. And since this is done, and we know how to shade cubes and you know how to shade things like this, let's go on to the final drawing. Alright, so let's go on to the final drawing, and for that I'm going to draw a pretty interesting shape. So let's draw our reference cube, and since this is going to be based on a cube, and let's draw it pretty big. Maybe let's just cut it out a bit so that you can really see that. Okay, so this is done, and I am going to make it a bit higher so that you can see where this shadow is going to go. Okay, so this is done, and let's just make our shape. So for that we need to make the inside, because going to need this side of the cube here. Alright, so this cube is done, and let's make the first side so that you know how this is going to look like. First of all, I am going to make a circle in here, and no, this won't be a cylinder. Let's just wait and see the final result. Okay, and I'm going to disconnect that let's say like this. All right, and like this. Okay, so we have first point here. And now let's draw a half of circle right here. Okay, like this. And now I'm going to highlight the things that I want to capture in this figure. Okay, so this is basically how our shape is going to look like. And let's just copy it on the other side and finish this drawing off. Okay, so since our shape is finished, the only part left to do is to shade it. So I'm not going to bore you with explaining how I do this because we just went over it. So enjoy the time lapse. Okay, so this is basically finished. I've done everything. I have constructed my shape and I have constructed my shadow. So you can see where I connected the points and where this all was supposed to go. So I think this concludes our today's video. Okay, so this is basically done. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. And also make sure you to leave out ideas for maybe future videos in the comments. I have some ideas lined up, but I will be very happy to read all of your suggestions. So I am going to implement them in my future videos. So yeah, Janek is out. Peace.